Today I'm going to do a quick video on what's happening with oil prices. If you haven't seen already, oil prices dropped below zero. Before today, I didn't even know that was possible. So I'm going to be going over today what happened, why it happened, and what it means. So oil prices dropped below $0. When I say oil prices, I mean oil futures contracts for May that are set to close tomorrow. It's the first time since crude futures have been traded, which was back in 1983 when they started trading crude futures. This is the first time they've ever dropped below zero. So usually if you're buying a futures contract the day of or the day before that future comes due, you are buying it because you physically want that commodity. Well, today nobody wants oil. There literally is so much of it that nobody wants it. And so people were selling off these futures contracts, and those that had bought them just for speculation were kind of caught like trying to get rid of these futures contracts. And then as everyone was getting rid of theirs, the price just got lower and lower and lower. And before we knew it, like I was saying before, the price got below $0. So people were paying others to take those futures contracts off their hands. This is so far and away different than anything we've ever seen before with oil. This is literally a storage problem. There is nowhere physically to store all the oil that has been produced and that hasn't been used. So because of that, we don't have anywhere to store it, and so nobody wants it right now. So why don't oil producers or those that are getting the oil out of the ground or wherever else, why don't they just turn off their wells and everything else? Well, it's actually very expensive to turn off their wells, to turn off the supply and turn off the flow. And so instead they're just selling these barrels of oil. It's actually cheaper for them to just get rid of it than it is to turn off all of and turning off a well is expensive and it's hard to do. So they're kind of just like, what do we do with all of this? And it just kind of all came together today to make these prices go negative. Now the interesting thing is a lot of energy companies and companies in the energy sector are not completely bottoming out like the oil commodities prices did. And that's because they expect the demand to return. They expect oil to kind of go back to where it was. And if you look at the futures for June, July, and going forward, they're all still above 20. And this means that they're expecting that the demand will come back and we aren't going to have this problem again in June. I guess they're assuming that the lockdowns are going to be lifted enough that the demand is going to be there to use up the oil that is being produced. So there's still confidence that this isn't going to be a long-term problem. However, it just kind of all compounded today and caused this crazy weird situation that we've never seen before. So the previous low was all the way back in 1986, March 31st, 1986. And it closed at $10.42 that day. Now, if you adjust that for inflation, it's way more than $10.42. So today was completely unprecedented. And I saw oil prices today at like $4.50, and I couldn't believe that they were that low. And then I watched as it dropped down below $4, and then down below $3, down below $2, and on until it started going negative. What it means is that those that are holding those contracts are being paid to take barrels of oil. Now, when a futures contract expires, you actually have to take delivery of the oil. So if you own a futures contract and you don't close that before the date that you have set, which is tomorrow for these that we're talking about, then you have to actually physically take delivery of barrels of oil. If you own 1,000 futures of crude oil and you don't close that contract, you have to take delivery of 1,000 barrels of oil. I don't even know how all that works, but you have to take delivery of that oil. The problem is, over the past couple weeks and months, supply has continued to build up and build up and build up, but demand has dropped. with all the people staying home because of the lockdowns and because the stay-at-home orders and everything else, nobody's using gas for their cars. Factories are shutting down, planes aren't flying, cruise ships aren't going anywhere. So all of this combined has led to huge stockpiles of inventory of oil. And because of that, for May, nobody wants oil. And because of all the supply, there is literally zero demand or less than zero demand. People are being paid to take oil. And because of that, the price of oil has dropped, and it's dropped below $0. And it closed today at $13.10 is what I saw initially, and it's since gone even lower than that. It's so bad that even MarketWatch's own website and some of the other websites don't even know what to do with a negative price for oil, as they're showing that it's gained in price since it closed because it went further negative. Even though it's getting worse and worse, they weren't set up to handle negative prices, and so it's showing that it's actually done better since close, but that's not the case. It's actually going lower. Anyway, this is just crazy wild stuff. So if you still own futures contracts for oil, you better start asking this question: where am I going to put my barrels of oil? And I'm only kind of joking, because that's literally what's happening. Is people have these contracts that they're trying to unload, and if they can't unload them, they literally have bought physical barrels of oil. And now they have to figure out where to store them, what to do with them, everything else. And that's what's going on. So at one point today, oilprice.com, a website specifically for oil prices, actually crashed because there was so much traffic, so many people trying to figure out what was going on with oil prices. That site that is dedicated to oil prices crashed today because I'm sure they've never seen anything like the traffic they saw today as well. So it's been crazy all around. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the comment section below. What does this mean for producers of oil? Well, it's not good for them. They obviously, here in the US, they're losing all sorts of money. The shale oil companies have basically been pushed out. They can't make money anywhere near these prices. I think they need to be like $70 or $80 a barrel before they actually are making money. Then everything that happened today just kind of compounded that, as supplies are such that nobody wants to store this oil. So unless oil makes a significant rebound, it's pretty dicey territory for oil companies here in the US and abroad. And they're going to be in serious trouble. Even if oil stays down at $20 a barrel, then they're still going to be in trouble, because most places can't produce and make a profit on oil at $20 a barrel. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks, over the next few months. But for now, oil prices went negative today. Absolutely insane. They'll probably be back to $20 a barrel as soon as the May futures all close. And the question is, what happens when the June futures close, a month from now? And those are questions that I think we may get answers to a little bit as we get closer, but we may not know until the day before or 2 days before, kind of like what happened today. Hopefully we can get some demand for oil again, and that this won't be an occurrence that happens next month. And this will kind of be a one-time thing, and you can remember that day when oil went negative. And I'm hoping that this never happens again, and that our supply and demand kind of stay close enough that there's not so much supply sitting in inventory that they can't even store it and can't even give away the oil basically for free. Any more questions or anything else, leave them in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in these financial topics and kind of the economic collapse, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing more financial crisis, the stock market. I do personal finance videos as well. If you have any questions, once again, leave them in the comments, and we will talk to you next time.